Welcome to a special series of This Week in Canton City Schools, where we will focus on the mental health and wellness of our kids and families. My name is Dan Mucci, and I'm the Mission Advancement Director at Child and Adolescent Behavioral Health, and I will be your host for today's segment. The Canton City School District continues to partner with Child and Adolescent Behavioral Health Agency. This agency provides a myriad of resources to the Stark County community, and most importantly, to our students within CCSD. Each month, we will feature resources and strategies to help the mental well-being of our young people. I am pleased to be joined today by our trauma lead specialist, Mary Kreitz. Mary is not only a frequent guest of this program, which is awesome, but also occasionally steps into the host chair herself, which you probably saw her a couple months ago hosting our student mental health panel. So today, she is here to discuss with us and share insights on children's well-being during the upcoming summer months. So Mary, welcome back to the program.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, so we've talked about it before, but just refresh our viewers a little bit about your background. Maybe not so much where you grew up and went to school, but your tenure with the agency.
Okay, I've been with CNA since 2002, July 1st, 2002.
Awesome.
So almost 24 years.
That's great.
Really amazing. So I've done a lot of different things at CNA. I came in as an intern and just have not left yet. And
awesome, we like that.
Occasionally they move my office around, but they haven't kicked me out yet, so that's good. I've done office-based work. I've done school-based work. I for 7 years worked in day treatment in our youngest classroom, the kindergarten through third graders. I worked a lot with our group program. When we had a group program, I did groups and camps and all sorts of different things with that. And currently, I am seeing clients on an outpatient basis, and I'm also the agency's training director. So I get to do a lot of training for our staff and for the community.
Yeah, so last month I was in your chair and we talked about our 50th anniversary. So you've almost been with the agency half of those time. 50 years. And you really have a great perspective kind of on the history of CNA with all the roles you've had. So what's it been like to watch CNA kind of grow and evolve in the past quarter century?
It is really amazing to see how CNA adapts to the needs of the community, because I really think that is our purpose for existing, is that we want to serve what the community needs. And we look at the families, we talk to the people at the schools. We're often part of the community right. Because, you know, we live here as well. And we try to keep a good pulse of what is needed and then try to see what creative ways can we fill those needs and help the families to basically live their best lives. And I think that, you know, CNA does a fantastic job of really just adapting and adjusting, but also keeping those things that we know work well.
Right. And so kids always change, technology always changes, and it's been nice to see us kind of change and grow with that, as you said.
Yes, definitely.
So we're going to talk about something fun for many families. Great. Summer is seen as a time to relax, kind of let go of some of those daily school year structure things. How important is it for kids of different age groups to kind of maintain some kind of schedule or routine over the summer?
It's actually very important. Structure is important for all human beings, regardless of age. So instead of thinking of summer as a time to drop the structure and just be free, it's time to maybe ease the structure or let it shift a little bit. But human beings need structure, and if you think about it, we had a really good example of this a few years ago when we had the pandemic, and a lot of things shut down, and a lot of our routines that we're used to didn't exist or didn't apply to the way that we were living at that time. And think about how stressful that felt, because we actually have to think a lot harder when we don't have structure. We have to consciously identify what are our options and then decide what we want to do. And structure actually allows us to take a break. It gives our brains a little bit of a break so that we can go on autopilot and know I get up at the same time every day. I have to do certain tasks during my day. Even having a bedtime at a consistent window of time is good for us. And our bodies actually crave that. Our bodies like to operate on a routine that's predictable. So if we are able to keep a window of, I tend to get up around this time, and we can have some variation. So, maybe I get up every morning between 7 and 7:30. My body gets used to that and starts to be ready to wake up around that time. If we're changing it a lot, our body is constantly having to adjust to a new routine, and that makes it harder and more stressful physically on us, which also affects us mentally and emotionally. And when we have a little bit of an opportunity to ease up on things, often people let go of those routines, and then maybe we're not waking up in the morning. We're just turning the alarm off and let it be whatever it is. But that makes it so much harder at the end of the summer when it's time to get ready to go back to school. And often, especially for our teens, they tend to shift, and sometimes even their whole day becomes inverted, so that they're not waking up until 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but they're staying up till 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. And when they have to shift, because high school doesn't start at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
So true.
They have to shift. It's a huge shift, and it's actually giving ourselves jet lag. Yeah. Trying to adjust to that new schedule. And everybody always says, oh, well, we'll adjust as we get closer to the fall. But nah, that doesn't really happen, because most of the time we end up with, oh, I have one last chance to get in a trip to Cedar Point, or I've got this exciting thing that I want to do. And we always find these exceptions to the routine and struggle for those first few weeks getting back to school.
Yeah, I know as a parent, I kind of look forward to that first couple weeks in June. They could sleep in a little bit.
Yeah.
Their extracurricular activities relaxed, but kind of shifted a little bit. But then usually by mid-July, we started reining them in and getting them back to where they needed to be.
And it is fine to take a break for a little limited time. So take a week or two and relax, adjust. It's not like you have to go really strict on things. And there are always going to be times you take a family vacation, or you have something special going on, like a trip to Cedar Point,
right,
or a party or a holiday. And yes, of course, things shift. 4th of July, often little kids stay up way past their bedtime because they want to see the fireworks just like everybody else. And we have to expect that and be able to shift when we have those things. But that's the beauty of having a structure, is that we know what to shift back to. We know how to rearrange the day to get back into that routine and get our kid back into feeling regulated and calm and steady, so that they can handle the things that are required of them during the day.
Yeah, so we know that not every child also looks forward to a break.
That's true.
Many of our clinical staff, I've heard over the years, have noted that any school break, summer, winter, spring, can be very difficult for children whose parents work full-time, or who may face, food insecurity, or not having that routine of breakfast is here, lunch is there. So what message would you offer those families who experiences those kinds of challenges? So there are different kinds of challenges, like you said, where kids are sleeping in, but for other kids, it's entirely different. Like there may be no father figure, so as you said, it all falls on a single parent or something.
Mm-hmm. There are a lot of reasons that kids might not look forward to breaks from school, and it can vary from I'm going to miss my friends, to I don't know what to do with myself, so I'm bored, to maybe I don't feel safe at home. Maybe I don't like where I need to go for childcare while my parents are at work. Lots of different things can make a child actually dislike that break from school, all the way up to dreading that break from school. And so really how to adjust to it depends on what that situation is. If it's something that's more social in nature, well, we can facilitate times to meet up with friends, ways to stay connected, ways to fill the day. Children often need that. We think we're giving them a gift You can literally do anything you want, but then we often come back at them and yell at them for what they did during the day because they didn't do the things we wanted them to do, or they did things we don't want them to do. So, some of it is we do need to provide them with the structure so that they don't feel stressed out about, oh, what am I going to do with this? Sometimes we do have to look at safety and help children to plan what can you do if you don't feel safe at home. And sometimes that's because things are happening in their home. Sometimes it's just, I don't live in a great neighborhood. So what do you do? Sometimes it is simple things like, I have a neighbor that I'm actually worried about. Well, what do you do when that neighbor is around then? So coming up with plans, because really, if we don't have a plan, our brains will ruminate on that, and we keep spinning our wheels trying to figure out, well, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? If we can give a sort of an outline of, here's what to do in case, here's the safe person to call, here's the phone number, here's the place to go to, that sets our minds back at ease so that we can sit back and enjoy and have a good time and really make those good memories of summer.
So here in Ohio, summer means more opportunities to be outside, because that doesn't always happen in the winter or even the spring if it's a rainy spring. So can you talk about the benefits of outdoor activity and limiting screen time for kids of all ages? We're not just talking about the teenagers.
Even the little
kids. 8, 9-year-olds. And
yeah, getting them away from Paw Patrol is really hard. Being outdoors actually is a phenomenal boost for our moods. We get vitamins and stimulation from the sunlight that helps to boost our moods and help us feel better. It's also great exercise to be able to get outside. And sometimes it's, formal exercise like playing a sport or going for a jog or something like that. But sometimes it's just taking a walk or playing in the yard, or going on a bike ride with your friends. And those things are also good because we need movement. Our bodies need that movement. And again, that has an effect on our brains, our ability to think, and on our emotions. So working that into our day is a really good idea. And I get it. We live in Ohio, so it may not be
right.
every day that we can go outside, but being able to plan 30 minutes, turn the TV off, put the electronics down, and go outside and do something for the next 30 minutes. We have a phenomenal park system. So getting out and going to the parks, being able to do the mindfulness walk out at the park, or just sit under a tree and look up at the clouds and breathe some fresh air. It really does make a difference in being able to feel good and feel healthy and not have all those creaky aches from sitting in the same place for hours on end while looking at a screen or being on a computer.
Yeah, and even staying up, not to throw the nighttime routine off too much, but even being able to sit out and enjoy a fire pit, or just maybe talking around a late dinner on your patio outside or in a park can be so inspiring or refreshing.
Those are wonderful things. We live in an area where we have fireflies. And catching them. I have a niece and nephew that live in Minnesota, and they don't have fireflies there. So one of the things they always enjoyed when they would come to visit is that we would catch them and put them in a jar and then release them at the end of the night and watch them all fly up. And, those are great memories from childhood. So we want to make sure that kids have a chance to do that and don't miss out on fun things like sitting at the fire pit or making s'mores.
Right, a favorite of my kids.
Yeah, it's a favorite of mine. I haven't outgrown that one. Those things are great things to do. And again, yes, it might vary from our usual bedtime routine, but that makes it a wonderful treat once in a while. It's not an every night kind of thing, but it's a wonderful once in a while type of a thing.
Yeah, so you mentioned the mindfulness walk, which is out at Petros Park. But talk to us a little bit about just being present and maybe a mindfulness activity that a parent could do with their child, or a grandparent, or just anybody could do.
Okay. Mindfulness is about being fully present in this moment. It's not about worrying about what's going to happen next. It's not rehashing what's already happened in the past. It's just being present in this moment. And there are lots of things people can do for mindfulness that helps. And mindfulness, it eases our anxiety. It pulls us out of depression. So it's really good for us to pause and do mindfulness, but it only needs to take a few seconds. And really, the simplest one that I can think of that any person can do is really just tuning in to your five senses. What do I see right now? What am I hearing right now? And sit quietly just for a second to hear the things that are not obvious. So I can hear the air conditioning just kicked on. I can hear someone breathing next to me. What are the things that I smell? So taking a deep breath and really smelling things. And I can actually smell that my hands smell like crayons because I was coloring earlier. Taking a minute and tasting, like, is there a taste in my mouth? Can I taste what I had for breakfast still? Or can I taste something like grabbing a piece of chocolate or fruit or something and just put it in your mouth and let it sit there. Don't chew on it yet, but just let it, like, savor that flavor for a minute. Feeling. What does the table feel like? Is it hard? Is it soft? Is it cold? Is it smooth? I can feel the chair that I'm sitting on. I can feel the air around me. What's the temperature of it? Things like that are so simple. It only takes a few seconds. It actually took me longer to describe it than it would take you to actually do it. We can be mindful by going outside, laying on the grass and looking up at the clouds or at the patterns of sunlight coming through the leaves. We can be mindful by looking up at the stars at night and trying to see, can we pick out constellations, or do we want to draw our own constellations and come up with our own fun names for them? You can do anything. You can stop and smell a flower and really mindfully take in that smell and what does it remind me of, and what are the colors? What are the beauty of the way that the petals are arranged?
Yeah, so growing up, you and I might not have struggled as much, but in today's society, that's really hard for kids just to hear silence and not
Yes, it's actually
be staring at their phone or something, yeah.
Yeah, for a lot of kids, it's uncomfortable because it's so far out of their normal zone of what they do. So helping them to be comfortable with silence and recognizing that there rarely ever is total silence. There's lots of sounds around us that we just don't normally pay attention to. So giving them attention for just a moment can really be very soothing.
Yeah, so one of the things that also shifts during the summer is kind of communication within families. And so, as we've mentioned, you can deviate from your routine a little bit. Maybe you pick up some different summer activities. But how can parents and caregivers kind of ensure that there's strong communication and they stay in sync with their children? And that's not necessarily their children texting them 10 times a day at work, but or calling them to say, can I have a peanut butter sandwich now, instead of just getting the peanut butter sandwich. But on an overall bigger level, how can that communication kind of stay in sync over the summer?
Some of it honestly is back to that structure, setting the expectation of what communication ought to be. So setting those limits that you don't need to text me, can I have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, by telling them, here are the options of what you can have for lunch today, or here are the things that are available, help yourself to whichever one you want. Sometimes it's setting the expectation of, if you go somewhere, how are you going to communicate to me where you're going and when you'll be back? If the plan changes, how are you going to communicate to me what the change is, and so we can decide what the new plan will be. But really also wanting to check in and have those meaningful conversations that are not just about stuff. We want to actually connect with our family members, and so that does mean setting time aside, whether that's every day or a few times a week. One of the best things is to have a family meal, and depending on what is going on in people's lives, maybe that's breakfast, maybe it's dinner. Sometimes we have to kind of work to make the schedules happen so that we can do that. And sometimes, honestly, it's nice to schedule, maybe it's not the whole family, but maybe it's just you and me. Let's have lunch together today. Maybe this is, mommy and daughter time, and talk about your day. And one of the biggest things that parents have to do when they're talking to their kids is actually make the question specific. Sometimes we ask such broad questions that kids don't know how to answer them, and so we get a non-answer. When we say, well, how's your day been going? And they go, fine. That tells you, well, your question was just too broad. They don't know how to answer it. So that's when you want to ask them, well, weren't you playing with your friends today? What did you guys play? Or I noticed you had the Lego out. Will you show me what you built? You know, any specific question like that really invites them to share with you their experiences and shows that you notice and value what they've been doing with their time. So we really have to be a little more specific with what we're asking, but also keep it open-ended so that they have a chance to describe it to us and it doesn't just feel like an interrogation. You know, did you put the laundry away? Did you clean the bathroom? Like, yes, those are important questions to ask, but that's not really connecting with someone when you ask those questions.
Right. And so getting back to something you mentioned earlier in answering this question, which was great, you mentioned that communication piece and not necessarily texting, can I have the peanut butter sandwich, and kind of laying out the options in advance. And so from a parent perspective, you know, you can do Find My Friend, you can do all those little things to micromanage the situation. But how important is that then to give them the choices and then come home at the end of the day and the parent can actually see how the child followed through instead of texting them, did you eat your lunch? Did you eat the peanut butter? Or whatever the case may be.
Often it feels easier to just tell them, make peanut butter and jelly for lunch, and then check back in, did you eat your peanut butter and jelly yet? But the problem with that is that we're not teaching children to think independently and to solve problems independently. So what we have to do is actually set it up for them to have opportunities to make choices for themselves and then check back in to see, did they make a good choice? And if they didn't, talk to them about, well, what can you do better next time?
Right.
Because we're all human. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to have times we don't make good choices. But how can you do better next time? So if we maybe give them a list and say, here are some options that are available in the fridge. You can have peanut butter and jelly. There's things to make sandwiches. Or if you want to, there's, you know, leftover Chinese food and you can reheat it. That lets you know, okay, there's 3 options, and then later in the day, and any of those are options that I'm 100% fine with. Right. If there's something that I don't want them to do, because maybe that's what I'm planning to make for dinner, I might say, right, you know, don't touch this because that's what and I'm going to tell them just straight out, that's what I plan to make for dinner, so leave that there. But these other 3 things are totally fine, and then I can check in with them later and say, well, which did you pick? Or honestly, I could probably open the fridge and see that, you know, oh, the Chinese food has been eaten. Okay, that's what you had for lunch. And I can just ask, you know, how was it? Did it taste good when it was rewarmed? It was really good when we had it the first time around. Just to, again, engage that conversation about like what their experience was like, rather than, did you eat the Chinese food? Was it you that ate it? Things that have just a yes or no answer don't really foster that connection. But we can give them opportunities to make some choices, give them maybe some responsibilities that they need to do, and then check back in with them on those responsibilities, because it gives them a chance to show that they can be responsible, that they can think independently or plan their day. So instead of saying, well, at 2 o'clock, I want you to stop what you're doing and go put the laundry away, we can say, okay, you've got time, you can play your game, but I also at some point today want you to get this laundry put away, and I want you to make sure that you feed the dog. And then they have the choice to decide when that needs to happen, or the dog needs to be fed before lunchtime. So give them a deadline, but whether that's done at 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock, I don't need to dictate that. I can let the child make a choice and then see what their consequence is. If the dog eats at 10 o'clock and then it is whining again for food or trying to beg for your lunch, well, perhaps that was a little too early to feed the dog. You know, they can learn that through their own experience. They don't need me to have to micromanage that for them. They also learn that I trust them I trust their judgment. I trust their wisdom. And there are times they're going to stumble, and then I can help them fine-tune their judgment and their wisdom.
Yeah, and summer's really a great time for that to happen. But we also know with summer, it also can bring some stress and anxiety for kids. We kind of talked about that a little bit. What kind of coping strategies or tools would you recommend for families to support their kids who are struggling emotionally during this time frame?
Sure. When kids are struggling emotionally, again, it really has to be personalized to what is going on for that child to cause those struggles and what's worked for them in the past, because the same technique doesn't necessarily work for every child. But what you want to do is, first off, make sure they feel safe. Children need to feel safe, and it's not just I objectively know that this is safe. I need them to trust that it's safe and to feel it. I need them to know who their safe people are, because connection really helps, whether it's depression, anxiety, trauma, behavior problems. Having a safe person that you know is going to hear you when you're having a problem, give you good guidance, be there for you when you need them. And honestly, having more than one is always a good idea, because our lives are busy. And if I'm your only safe person and I'm busy, what are you going to do? Right. And letting them know that if I'm busy, it's not personal. Maybe I'm working because I want to provide us with a good life. Maybe I'm busy because I need to take care of your sister. There are times that we are going to be busy. So talking about it, though, and letting them know. Also checking in and making sure that they have the formal supports they need. If they're having a lot of anxiety, maybe they need to talk to a counselor. Maybe they need to get involved in a group or something that is going to help them. Maybe they need medication. Really looking into what are the avenues that they need and making sure that those needs are being met. And also helping them to feel that they have some control over things. So what are your strategies that help you to manage your anxiety, and knowing when should you use them? What are those early signs that you're starting to fall into depression again, so that you know that you need to do something about it? And really partnering with them, that you're not alone in this struggle. I'm going to help you. And we have to communicate about this so that I can be there to help you.
Yeah, so here in the Canton City School District, the AIM Academy, which is at the Belden Elementary School, runs on a year-round calendar, so it's more balanced. So that means that throughout the year they get intermittent 3-week breaks. So when you look at a scheduling perspective for students, how do you think that affects things both positively and perhaps negatively, specifically with friends or siblings? So when school first gets out, they still may be in school for a couple more weeks, but throughout the course of the school year, they were off when their sibling was in school.
Yeah, it's a challenge when people are on different schedules and they don't coordinate, or when maybe your friends go to a different school and so they're off but you're not, and that can be heartbreaking. Honestly, as adults, we deal with that all the time, because my vacation time from work may not match up with my friend's vacation time or my family members' vacation times. So some of those same strategies that we use as adults can be taught to children, that, okay, maybe we have to be a little more planful about when we're going to be able to get together with our friends. Sometimes we have to use those communication skills to say, oh, of course I can't go with you to Cedar Point. Geauga Lake closed down a long time ago. I can't go with you to Cedar Point this weekend or this Tuesday because I am in school. Can we go on the weekend? Or I'll be off on this week. Could we set something up that week? Just to let them know I'm still interested in doing fun things with you. Some of it is just being sympathetic, that, yeah, it's hugely disappointing when you know that all your friends just did this really fun thing and you couldn't be part of it. But also helping them to see both sides of it, because there actually are a lot of benefits to a year-round school routine. A lot of research shows that kids forget a lot less, and they make a lot more consistent gains academically by having that more evenly spaced calendar of instruction, where the long 10-week summer often is followed by a long period of reteaching things that kids learned before but have forgotten over the summer, reacclimatizing kids to the idea of the school routine. They tend to have a lot less need for that when they have the year-round school schedule. But it is challenging when there's differences, and so we just really have to recognize that challenge and work through it.
Nice. As a parent myself, I know how overwhelming summer can be. I now have 2 kids in their 20s, so I kind of remember the stress of managing childcare and keeping them active. What advice would you offer parents today trying to stay balanced in the summer months? We've talked about it a little bit, but gosh, 20 years ago, it didn't seem so complicated with my kids. Like, some of those challenges were there, but today it just seems like it could be more overwhelming, I guess, maybe.
Well, and honestly, structure. Structure is going to be our best tool for that, because we do have to make decisions about how am I going to handle this? What can I get my kids involved in? But also, what's too much? Maybe they need a little bit of a break, and so we can ease off some of the activities. A lot of kids are way more involved in multiple things than they were maybe 20 years ago. So being able to say, well, yes, you want to do all of these activities, let's pick 3 and focus on those for this summer. And then, we'll pick up some other things or shift around in the fall when school comes back. But sometimes we do have to set limits and say, yes, all of these sound like a lot of fun, but you're not possibly going to be able to do all of them. The schedules are not going to allow that. Some of it is structuring things and saying, all of the housework cannot fall on me. So while you guys are home during the day, I need you to run a load of laundry, and I need you to mow the lawn, and I need you to maybe do the dishes. Giving them some chores to help out in the household, especially when you've got teenagers who are capable of doing something like that without necessarily needing a parent nearby to watch over their shoulder. Some of it is being able to make sure that younger kids have some proper supervision, getting them involved in maybe a summer camp or a summer daycare program so that they have activities during the day and are not just sitting and scrolling on a tablet or watching the television.
Or YouTube.
Or YouTube.
Or TikTok or any of the other stuff.
Yes, and I don't want to say never let them look at YouTube, because there's a lot of wonderfully entertaining things on there. But limits. Put some limits on it, and even being able to recognize and say, you've been doing that for a while now, so it's time to put it down and take a break from it. And come cook with me. Or wouldn't you like to go outside and ride your bike for a little bit? Give them options, because a lot of times what they focus on is what you're taking away from me when you're saying, put that down. So then they get stuck on arguing with you that, no, I want to play on my tablet. I want to sit and scroll on YouTube. There was a video I just wanted to see really badly. And then you look and that video is an hour and 37 minutes long. And it's like, no, we don't need that. It'll still be there later. But give them something to look forward to that they're moving to. So you could have a lot of fun while the sun is still out if you went outside and went on a bike ride. Or maybe this would be a really great time to go take the dog for a walk because it's not raining. Give them something that they're looking forward to. And honestly, sometimes we have to sell it.
Right.
And make it sound interesting. Make it sound like fun. Because if we're like, no, put that down and go clean your room, of course they're going to say no.
Right.
I don't want to put my fun things down and go clean my room. I might know that it's necessary, but I'm not super excited about going to do that. So we have to tap into our acting skills a little bit and sell the idea that you're doing something either important or fun or both.
Yeah, so as we wrap this thing up, structure is the most important thing in the summer and providing options. Is there anything else we want to miss that you would want to add?
Well, I guess the only other thing I would say is make sure that we're having fun with our kids. Really enjoy them. It can be so easy to get caught up in making sure that we're getting to all the appointments on time and getting all the things done, but sometimes we need to just sit and be silly with them or listen to them tell us about their day and just enjoy the human beings that they are.
I would echo that advice because as the parent of 20-year-olds, it goes by much quicker than you think, and you look back and wish you would have maybe not done that chore and done a fun activity or taken the extra 5 minutes. I would like to thank Mary for being our guest on today's show, and obviously you for tuning in, our viewers. For additional information on how you can utilize the services available at CNA, please visit our website at childandadolescent.org or call 330-433-6075. My name's Dan Mucci, and thank you for joining us today.